All right, what we've done this morning is put the floor jack underneath the differential, lift the Jeep up kind of high, and then set it down on the 6-ton jacks on the frame rails on the outside. That way I can lower the differential as I need it after I loosen up the control arms and remove the drive shaft and get rid of the track bar, etc. And then another thing I thought of is right at the bottom of these coils, you can see a flat washer in there and a bolt that goes through it. With the TerraFlex lift kit comes coil retainers, and TerraFlex gives you kind of a custom-made wrench that sneaks in there, and I'm gonna have to try to find that so that I can get the washer off of there that actually holds the coils in place. So hopefully I have it laying around. If not, I'll have to be creative. I know you can pick that wrench up with another retainer kit for like 20 bucks. So we'll see. That's just something I thought of. Before moving the rear drive shaft, you can see that the drive shaft has weights on it for balancing and so forth. So what I've done is I've just made a horizontal mark with a Sharpie on the actual Rosetta joint portion and the flange. So when this thing goes back together, we'll line it up. And then the 8 bolts have these little connecting washers. I even marked them to put them at exactly the same spot where I took them out from. So those are 5/16 head bolts. I'll be loosening those and pushing in on the slip joint right there, which lost its boot a long time ago. And if that doesn't come out, you see that little hole right there where the mark is, you can put a little punch or a little pry in there and kind of put a little pressure away from the flange to separate the two. So, and then I got a bungee cord, and we'll bungee that drive shaft up out of the way. So all 8 of the 5/16 head bolts are out. So now I gotta kind of put some pressure on this away from the flange here and separate it. You can see the marking right there. So when we put this thing back together, that's where we need to be. Okay, this drive shaft has never been out before. And let me tell you, I've been working on it for 45 minutes. So I've got the weight of the drive shaft held up with some bungee cords. I've marked, you can see the marking lines across the drive shaft, and I even went farther onto the weight, just so there's no mistaking when I put it back together. So I got the transmission in neutral so you can rotate it, and I was just kind of gently tapping this with a rubber mallet. So you can see the threaded holes that the bolts go through that actually hold the drive shaft to the flange. But then you have a large hole on this side that you can put a long screwdriver in, and you have one 180 degrees out of phase with that one. Right there. So I've just been going back and forth with a long screwdriver and a hammer and gently tapping that. And I think I finally got some movement. So hopefully I'm going to have this thing out very soon. All right, it's finally out. It's being held up by the bungee cord. And quite honestly, I like a lot of us, this is my stock drive shaft. It's a piece of shit, but you know, you run it as long as you have no problems, and I haven't had any problems with it. But a long time ago, I lost the slip joint boot. So what happens is you know, this thing kind of gets rusty, and I don't think it compresses in and out as it should in the splines. But it is out. I'll try to push that towards the transfer case a little more. But that was like 45 minutes an hour to get that thing out, so it's kind of aggravating. Okay, I got to talk about this. So TerraFlex gives you like an offset wrench to get way inside this little perch for this coil spring. I was able to get a half inch wrench barely in there to hold that nut, and then it's 9/16 on the top right here. And what it does is it pushes down on this big washer right here, and it holds these springs in. So this is the driver's side, and I just got that off. Hopefully I'll be able to get the passenger side off without the little TerraFlex tool. The trickier thing may be getting it back together after, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Okay, happily, I was able to get the coil retainer, big washers, those nuts and bolts, I was able to get them off. So now the coils are just sitting there. So then I was focusing my attention back to the ABS speed sensors themselves. So this is a 5/16 bolt right here. So I'm going to undo that and then very carefully remove it. And if you look right there, you can see it right there, how it extends and then it rides on those teeth, getting electrical signal as those teeth spin. I believe they call it the tone ring. And you can see that, you know, you run underwater and mud, this is what you end up with inside your rotor. So I got to get some brake cleaner, a couple cans, and clean all that up really nice. So what I did is I sprayed some brake cleaner all around this, and in there, you can see it right there. See it moving? I was able to get my finger in there and gently push outward at the same time while I was pulling over here. So there's the passenger speed sensor switch right there. Clean that all up nice, mark it, and put it aside. Okay, this is the driver's side, 5/16 bolt right there. ABS sensor going through, you can see it right there, riding on the tone ring. Gonna clean that up with some brake cleaner. You can see the e-brakes aren't looking too good. These things need attention. They just need a really good thorough cleaning. And this is where you get a lot of your squeaking with your braking and whatnot after you've been wheeling. A lot of rotational sounds. A lot of mud gets caked up in here, and there's really not much you can do except take them apart from time to time and clean them out. All right, I'm at a good stopping point for today. The Jeep is up on jack stands underneath its frame. I have full control of the axle with the floor jack. What is left? Okay, shocks, the bottom shock mounts, bolts need to be removed, driver and passenger side. And you can see I run the Evo lower control arm shock mount armor. So what's going to happen is once the bolts come out of the shocks, once the other bolts from the lower control arms come out, that whole assembly, that steel assembly right there will drop down and be removed as well. So we got that. We got the upper control arms and the track bar. Once that is all removed, and quite honestly, I'm just kind of tired right now. Maybe there's an hour's worth of work. If that armor comes off nicely, it's kind of beat up. And then the other thing too I thought I would do was undo the nuts. You can see there's 4 nuts. There's 2 showing right there for the actual axle shafts. And I will then reverse the rotors and use them as slide hammers and pull the axle shafts out of the carrier on both the passenger and driver side. So I want to do that too. So the axle shafts will be removed. The shocks will be removed. The bolts for the upper and lower control arms. And then we've got that track bar right there. Once that's done, obviously I will just gently lower this axle housing. The only thing left in it will be the carrier and the pinion gear. And then we'll move it out where we can work on it. And then I will mark the left and right bearing caps for proper orientation. I still have, as I lower this axle housing, I have 2 electrical connectors on the front of the axle housing. They are the connector that actually engages the locker and the sensor. It's a plunger switch inside that rides on a locker plate, and that tells the computer that you are in fact locked or unlocked. Those electrical connectors test many, many people. So what I'm hoping to do is when I lower this and can get my head in there better, to really get the camera in there and assess exactly the technique used to get those electrical connectors off. So those also need to be completely removed before I can free the axle from the Jeep. So that's where we are. Good stopping point for today. Recon Jeeper out.